Former Michigan State running back and current UCLA running back Jalen Berger, he said, quote, "It felt like they didn't want to play anymore." Yeah, sure felt like that. Does this ever get fixed? I just don't know.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, buckle up for another joyous and happy Candyland-filled conversation of your Michigan State Spartans here. Right on Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Now, I'm excited for this one because unlike the last few shows, it's not just me melting down in my own little studio over here. No, guys, we don't just have a guest here. We have someone that's a former player of this program, someone that also is currently a podcaster. You already know him. It's Dante Razzano, part of the You Are the Program podcast. And Dante, let's kick things off here. Because, again, I've just been in my own little asylum over here melting down about the state of this program. And yesterday I started off with this, is that they are failing in all 5 phases is what I called it, under the rebuild, under this program. The first is culture/identity. Nowhere to be seen. The second, the offense. Certainly not as improved as we once thought 4 games into the season. The third is defense. I don't need to say anything more about that. The fourth is special teams. And then fifth, Dante, the other day when I was driving home on 696, I passed a deer on the side of the road that looked like it was taking a permanent nap, but even that thing's got more life than Michigan State's recruiting right now. Of those 5, Dante, what's got you most frustrated about Michigan State? What is just shaking you to your core right now? Good to see you, by the way.
Great to see you as well. Under such phenomenal circumstances here.
Vibes are great.
Vibes are great. Everything's going well. For me personally, it's number 1. We talked about this at nauseum on our podcast yesterday. It's just really disheartening to see the result of 38-13, but all of these things kind of build on themselves, it feels like, of the lack of energy, the lack of, I don't want to say care or want to, because, we've been in the building and we've seen that there's a lot that goes into it every day, but, it kind of just seems like there's I don't want to say a non-joy about, like, almost the joy has been sapped out of it. And I don't know what that reasoning might be because, we look at it 2 weeks ago today, coming out of, or before the Nebraska game, and you have an opportunity. You're coming out of a bye week. Last year out of the bye week, we look great. And you don't play a good game, and yet you're in position to win it. And then everything melts down from there. And from that point on, nothing has seemed the same. And as a viewer watching it from the outside, at some point you want to see some type of leadership. Now, we came from a different era of, Coach D'Antonio, Coach Manny, of always putting in the phrases of confront and demand and, player-led teams and all of that. So, yeah, it's a different regime and they're going to operate differently. So I'll give them as much, space for that as possible because different coaches handle different situations. That does not mean that they won't be successful, but at some point there has to be some type of fire energy from someone. And it doesn't have to be the head coach. There's a lot of head coaches that are successful that seem a little mundane on this sideline, but from your captains that are leading both sides of the football, whether it's your quarterback or your middle linebacker, at some point you can't just do lip service and say that this team's really close. The culture here is great.
Right.
And then put that product on the field.
The lip service drove me crazy. And not just even with the culture, the energy, the identity, but what you heard from the offensive side of the ball. Hey, we got the old quarterback coach. It's going to be a lot better. We're on the defensive side of the ball. Hey, year 2 under the system. We're all moving a lot faster so far in spring ball. It's going to look great. And well, here we are. But look, going back to the culture and the energy, I use words like they look disinterested, which maybe that's a little bit unfair. But when it comes out that Jalen Berger, who of course played running back here at Michigan State, he transferred to the UCLA. And Detroit News has this quote from the mouth of Jalen Berger saying, quote, it felt like they didn't want to play anymore. Look, it's easy for me just sitting on a couch, having a beer, just being able to identify it, saying, oh my God, they don't look like they care. They don't look like they want to be out there, Dante. But hot golly gee willikers, hearing it from an opposing player, Dante, like, is it even possible to feel like you don't want to play anymore, especially halfway through the season? Like, this isn't like the last game of the season. You're already eliminated from bowl eligibility. Like, this is middle of the season, sold out homecoming crowd. Do you even think it's possible to play like you don't want to be there anymore? Or is that just a little hyperbolic, you think?
Well, that's the most concerning part to me, because we've talked about this on our podcast and tweeted out a quick clip last week of Coach D'Antonio in 2016 told us it can always get worse. And that doesn't sound like something you'd want to hear after losing a game, when you're having a tough season. You want someone to build you up, but it's real, because the only people that can change it, and until the people in that locker room that have the ability to change it do, then things are going to get worse. And so, it's not a pretty message, but if you're already looking like this 6 weeks into the season, you're 3-3, you've had chances or been in games, and then you just look totally unrecognizable at home against UCLA on homecoming. I don't want to say that they don't want to play or disinterested in playing, but it's like, have a little backbone in this situation, because nobody's going to pout for you. Not one person, and a lot of the time it's going to seem like, whether you're listening to the media on X, looking at comments or anything, the only person that can change the situation that you are in is you. And so you need to find a way to do that. And whether the coaching staff is carrying that message to the players, or whether the players are telling that message to themselves, someone in that locker room has to be accountable and make some type of change, because what we saw on Saturday isn't reflective of what this team can be. This is worse than we ever could have imagined it would be 6 games into the season. And I don't have an explanation for that. We talked about on our podcast yesterday. Sorry, I keep referencing back to the one that we recorded.
Right. I mean, you guys are the 3 former players. Like, this is very contextual and relevant. So please drop it all you want. I mean, it checks out.
Did lose my train of thought here, but it goes along the lines of what we've been talking about, of just someone's got to make a change in that locker room, whether it's mentality, attitude. Oh, I remembered what it was. It almost seems weird that 6 years down the line of us leaving, or the last year in 2019, Coach D'Antonio's last year, that college football has just changed so much, and everyone talks about it. Yeah. But the reality of the world now in college football has gone from, you have guys that commit to a program, and with the transfer portal, NIL, all of these things and opportunities that are outside of that, is this just the new world of, guys are truly here in a financial transaction? That's why, I was telling you before the podcast that it's kind of a weird line to toe for former players, and that we have a podcast that's being broadcast out there, right, where we're willingly putting those words up there and out there. But, at the same time, it is a different world to where guys are making $1 million+ to play football for you. So it's purely transactional to a certain point. Now, why it seems worse right now for us than even other programs like a UCLA that's had their head coach fired, or Purdue that brought in 60 new transfers. Right. That's what I can't wrap my head around, because we brought back so much of the roster, and that's why we were excited before the year.
The holidays are going to be here before we even know it, which, yes, is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations, that can feel like a lot. Maybe your silverware needs a refresh. The guest room could use new bedding. Whatever it is, Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready. We're talking from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget. And with free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff, guys, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees, which is a game changer, guys. I love how easy it was to find pieces that fit our style, our budget, and of course, just like I said, the outdoor inflatables. Everything in one place, and the checkout was a breeze, guys. So what are you waiting for? Get holiday ready with Wayfair. Get organized, refreshed, and once again, ready for the holidays for way, way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Also, guys, yes, football season, we already know it. It's here, but did you know that if you're a new customer at FanDuel, this season's going to get a lot sweeter for you because, new customers, sign up, bet $5, and if that first $5 bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win that bet. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 to use in bonus bets across the app. Use it from, the classic game lines, the props, the futures, or join what I like to do, same game parlays, string together a few touchdown scores at any times, and hey, a nice little $5 bet, that can net you a few hundred. Happened to me earlier this season. That was a great way to start the season. Now let's continue the season on a hot note with FanDuel, guys. What are you waiting for out there? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, guys, that is FanDuel.com. Earlier, you used a word accountability, and I think it's pretty clear. I hopefully I'm not doing too much, Sunday morning armchair quarterbacking. But yeah, accountability pretty clearly needs to enter that locker room. And this is something that actually Jonathan Smith spoke about earlier today during media availability, is that he said, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, these aren't verbatim quotes, but he said that Sunday was really productive. They talked about taking accountability. Players and coaches all took accountability. They watched film as a big unit, not broken up into individual groups. And also going back to Jalen Berger's comment, he was asked about that actually. Jack Ebling was the one who asked Jonathan Smith about that quote, and he said, quote, "I don't think that's accurate." So between all that, like all the meetings about accountability, does that matter, Dante? Because to me that reeks of, okay, that is way too little, way too late. How the hell are you doing this 6 weeks into the season? Like, if you're doing that, I get that it sounds great that, all right, we're going to turn the attitude around and guys are taking responsibility. Like, how about you shouldn't have to be doing any of this in the first place? Maybe I'm just like way, way, way too sour and I've just gone completely overboard. So can you check me on that if I am? But I don't know. You hear all that. You're a former player. Do you think that kind of stuff works midway through a season, or is this just a foregone conclusion, you think?
No, because by this point, it's already gone. And so if the habit needs to be instilled 6-7 weeks into the season,
6-7, nice.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I feel yawn. Now I get it. Oh, that was fun. Okay. I never understood that joke, but okay. Sorry. Here I go.
I don't either, but I just hear everyone else talk about it. So you picked it up to me and I've heard about it. Don't get it. Just laugh. Yeah. That's the first
time I've smiled ever since Saturday. That was fun. I like that. Anyway, 6-7 weeks in the season. I'm sorry, Dante.
we just, I don't want to say it's too late. There's so much season, and that's where I'll go back to the statement of it can always get worse because you have 6 more games that you have to get through. Anyone in that locker room that thinks, this sucks right now, you have 6 more or 7 more with even the bye week in there. 6, 7. I keep saying it. I need to stop.
That's right.
You have those Monday.
That's okay.
you have those Monday lifts. You have Wednesday lifts, you have Tuesday, Wednesday practices that are full pads, you have meetings, you have class, you have all of these things that you have to continue to grind through, whether you give up or not. If you just completely abandon, I mean, I guess that's another option, but there are, if you're talking about this that far into the season, and we've also gotten to a point now where it's just, you can't, to me, I can't listen to anything that happens during the week until something changes on the field.
Correct. I need to actually see the walk being walked instead of just the talk being talked. I completely get it. Look, you know what? I really wish we could just sim the last 6 weeks of the season. That sounds delightful. As much as I love Michigan State, and I will still watch every single game, but oh my God, coming up next, Indiana. And like, that's also part of it is like, I might be a little barely inclined to listen to what you're saying about how great Sunday was and how it's going to be a new focus, but that's a team that could beat you by 4,000 points this upcoming Saturday. And then right after that, the Michigan game. And let's talk about that, Dante, because look, I think it's no secret after the last few episodes that, I think I finally sold my last few shares of stock in this coaching staff just overall. Like, And I think a lot of the fan base has too. So I went out, I asked on Twitter, is there anything that can happen the rest of the season that will get you back into buying into this regime? We got 185 responses. So Dante, I'm going to read through all 185 right now. And you tell me your favorite one. No, honestly, like a lot of them were nothing. And a lot of them were beat Michigan, get to a bowl game. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Beating Michigan isn't enough, as crazy as that sounds, as starved as we are to beat the Wolverines. Like, that's not even a good Michigan team this year. I don't know. Like, I don't think they're going to go with college football playoff and barnstorm to the national title. Like, that's a gettable team. You beat them, don't get me wrong. We will get our jokes off. We will celebrate. But I'd also be, like, a little annoyed, like, where was that passion and energy and execution the entire season? But I digress. You still got to find 2 more wins after that for me to even think, like, okay, you've Billy Napier yourself. You have really strung along a great last month of the season. I believe in you. Let's run it back for a 3rd year. So that's where I'm at. Michigan win, and then 2 additional wins, which is far from a guarantee. Dante, is there any saving this for you, or are you just all the way out?
I would actually probably be back in that scenario. Not all the way in. It would be sure. Like when you're dipping your toe into the water, seeing what the temperature is there.
Yeah.
It's because if you look back and take a 180-foot view or 10,000-foot view of the program and say, all right, well, we went 6-6. Beginning of the year, I remember I came on this podcast before the season started and said, it's time to start having expectations again.
Yeah.
And that would still be underselling expectations. But to me, if you are able to turn around this locker room and you are able to get buy-in and you beat your rival, because that's one of the frustrating parts for me right now is all of a sudden you look at this schedule, you have Penn State with Drew Allard out for the year, fired James Franklin, which I've been on a tirade on Twitter about, it feels like, because that's a conversation for another day. I don't know what they're hoping for necessarily.
Today. Who knows? Yeah.
But you have winnable games. I mean, Iowa is a team that can lose to anybody, and right. You should be able to measure up in that game. And Minnesota the same way. You have a lot of games down the stretch that are winnable. Also, you have just as many that are losable. You know, we talk about the 3-9 type thing. So, you know, you lost your biggest or your easiest game remaining in UCLA, but I would have hope. I would have to see it play out, but I would have hope if somehow they go on to beat Michigan and then find a way and scrap their way to a bowl game, because that is something that I think is legitimate momentum. You mentioned Billy Napier, and it's a pretty good example. Mm-hmm. But if you can get into the offseason 6-6, you know, beat Michigan, somehow beat 2 other teams, and you turn it around and you get momentum, it's proof of concept. I keep mentioning that. I wouldn't be all the way out, and especially pulling the trigger year 2 with all of the financial implications and everything. I don't think there would be enough justification there just because of 2 really bad weeks, but it doesn't look like it's just going to be 2 really bad weeks. But if somehow we get to that point at the end of the season, I think you could look back at it and say, well, those were really weird 2 weeks. I don't know what happened there.
I get it. I'm kind of with you here. And like immediately when I asked the question, like on Sunday all day, I'm like, no, there's no way that this staff gets me to buy back into them. Like, I'm not being fooled again. But I also know myself too well, Dante. Like, I'm a sucker. Like, I'm a moron. I'll come take the cheese off the mousetrap and get my head chopped off if they do beat Michigan. And if they do win 2 more games, let's call it, Penn State, why not? Sure, they're vulnerable right now. Let's just go ahead and get our licks in against them. And then you beat Maryland at Ford Field to end the year. Sure. And then, of course, let's say that by the grace of God, you get Nick Marsh back. You bring Aiden Childs back, who he needs a good bounce back to his second half of the year coming up. Yeah, I could maybe talk myself into why, like, okay, I'll stick around for 1 more year. Hey, it's a good thing we didn't pay that just gargantuan buyout that he has. I just like, but God, isn't that such a helpless feeling right now? We already know college football is back, but did you know the best place to get tickets for college football or any concerts, any comedy shows? Look, if it's a ticketed event, the best place to go is over to Game Time. Guys, I use Game Time for a few reasons. The first one, I just love how upfront and simple it is. This is not one of the ticketing apps where, okay, cool, $30 tickets, and then after 19 clicks, you're wondering how on earth these turn into $84 tickets. Like, no. You get the upfront price with Game Time. It is 2 taps on your phone, and the tickets are sent straight to you. They take all the kerfuffle, all the nonsense out of buying tickets. It is so simple with Game Time, you won't even believe it. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Also, look your best for the rest of this college football season, and hey, pretty soon, college basketball season with Alumni Hall, guys. Because Alumni Hall, they got the largest selection of officially licensed gear from all the top brands you are looking for. We're talking Nike, Columbia, Champion, Yeti, New Era, so much more. They have apparel for the entire family, from kids to adults, and a huge selection of hats, gifts, all the tailgating gear you could ever need to make your setup the best in the lots this season. And they're also taking care of the Spartan community, because Michigan State students, faculty, as well as military and all first responders, you get 10% off with a valid ID in the store. And also follow them on social media. Download the Alumni Hall app, because there are more special offers and sales going on through there. So what are you waiting for, guys? Pop into Alumni Hall in the Eastwood Town Center in Lansing near the Apple Store, or shop online or through their app. And yeah, best part is, for every $150 you spend, you will get $10 in Hall cash to use for the next time. So grab that new game day look, or upgrade your tailgate with Alumni Hall, your ultimate Michigan State shopping destination. Where are you at right now? Because I've long said that I don't think MSU actually does fire Smith. I think the number, even though it pales in comparison to James Franklin's buyout, $32 million, whatever you want to call it, is still a lot of money for a school to pay to get rid of a football coach. Do you expect Michigan State to do it? Do you think that they saw what Penn State did, forking over $50 million, and are saying, okay, well, we might as well join the party. We also know how serious football is. Let's make a move right now. Because I just feel myself being torn whenever I think about it. Do you think it happens?
No, because of 2 reasons. Unless the season, like we've said, which is very realistic, goes completely off the rails, 3-9, it gets worse. You have a mass exodus.
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
I
don't think it does, for 2 reasons. Number one, you talked about the buyout. I think that's a lot of money, and the message that portrays to whoever you might hire next. 1A is there's going to be a lot of jobs, I think, open this coaching cycle.
Yes.
That make it pretty tough. And then additionally, the J-Bat position is really interesting, because as a first-year athletic director, he has to make a really big decision, but not only a big decision, his clock starts ticking then. He hasn't been an athletic director for a full year here. He hasn't probably gotten the full lay of the land. He hasn't gotten, all of his connections down in terms of the donors. Now, if they went to him, that's a different scenario. But if he pulls the trigger on that, he's making a really snap decision with a lot of the big donors that are going to have to fork over that money. And then all of a sudden, now the spotlight is on him if he does not get this coaching hire right. So that's where, listen, if we go 3-9 and we don't pull the trigger, it'll be interesting to see what the offseason looks like in terms of, okay, what are your expectations now, Jonathan Smith, that are directed from J-Bat, and how do we proceed from here? I think that's probably the most likely path forward if disaster scenario happens, which we're right on schedule with that. So why not? But I think for those reasons, it becomes a really tough decision for a first-year athletic director that's trying to put a stamp on it. But, in the same vein, he talked in his opening press conference about how important a successful football program is. So does he want to try and delay that another year? Because as we talked about, a lot of good jobs are open, but if you want to make your, program successful, if you want to put them in a good spot, there's also a lot of pretty good head coaches that I could think of that fit a mold of a Michigan State and what we like to do, or what we like to see our program produce.
Let's go along with that topic of conversation. Good head coaches out there, because I've completely turned my opinion around, because we were asked actually during the UCLA game, hey, if James Franklin gets fired, which of course he eventually was this weekend, would you want him at Michigan State? And I immediately said, no, I'm not going to take a guy that was paid $50 million by one school that never coached them ever again. But now I've actually really sat down and I've thought about it. Dante, do you have any interest in the flavor of the week of James Franklin? Because that is an intriguing name. Is he corny? Sure, a little bit, but does he establish culture? I would say for the most part over his time at Penn State, yes, he did. Does he have a big game problem? Yes, Dante, he does. But would I kill to have big game problems at this point at Michigan State? Yeah, I would love to get on here and scream about how we keep on just going 9-3 and 10-2 over and over again until I lose my brain. But and also too, like, good recruiting ties here in the state of Michigan. In a perfect world, let's say that James Franklin is one of these oddballs. He's super competitive. He's not just going to not work the rest of his life because he just got a $50 million check. Let's say he's interested. Do you take James Franklin? Is that at the top of your wish list for Michigan State? Should we move on from Jonathan Smith? I know I'm talking like it's a finality at this point, but would you take Jonathan Smith? Would you take James Franklin? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with that one. James Franklin.
Here. Yeah, that's right.
I am very much known on my podcast for throwing shade at a lot of other Big Ten schools, and James Franklin has been in the crosshairs. Brian, Tyler, and I have all thrown shade that way, but absolutely I would take him. He, to your point, I mean, we would die to be in those situations. But he's not only done it at Penn State, turning them and stabilizing them and bringing them back to that elite power that they were. He did it at Vanderbilt as well, a program that has not a ton of great resources. I can't remember his best year there. It was, 11, 12 years ago, but he did put them at some point to where they were competitive again in the SEC. So he is a program builder. He knows how to pick people up off the mat. I would suspect that he's going to coach next year. However, I'm interested to see where that goes because I think he's going to get a lot of high profile interest because I think maybe 10 or 11 years might be too long at a certain point. It's kind of like the Bo Pelini thing at Nebraska. Yeah. You always think you can do better and you always think you want to move on from this. But at the end of the day, it's a hard thing to duplicate. And, a place like Penn State, I think they might be immune to that, but we'll see. I mean, if the name that's really being floated out there a ton on October 13th here is the one that they go with, I would laugh out loud and say, good luck to you. So that would be Matt Rule that everyone wants to fill in there.
And it just goes back to the point that you brought up. We talked about this too yesterday. Is like this can be an insane coaching carousel because then Nebraska opens up. Okay, like how are you going to pit the Michigan State job versus Nebraska? I can see how coaches that are on the market could be swayed towards either one of those schools. And then that's not to say that Auburn's not going to open up. Florida could open up. Wisconsin can open up, but I guess they have a resource problem that has really gone under the radar. But just like you said, like there's going to be a lot of jobs open. There already are some good jobs open right now. Does Michigan State, A, want to pay this buyout, and B, swim in these waters when outside of the money and resources, like the state of the program, like not outstanding right now. Like this could be a little bit of a tough sell. So I really empathize with J-Bat here. Like this is a tough spot for him. And I'm really glad you brought up the point too. Like this would start his clock too, a little earlier than he wants. But man, there's a lot going on right now with other coaching carousels, financials. Michigan State just as an institution is trying to cut 9 or 10% of their budget over the next 2 years. Are they really going to fly in the face of all that and drop 150 million fundraising for football? I would love to see that, but I'm just an idiot sports fan. Like there are actually people that care about the academic side of this school. So I don't know. In a way I feel bad for Jay Bat, but that's why you're brought here. That's why you're being paid what you are being paid, Mr. Bat. So
the funniest scenario of all time would be Matt Rule going to Nebraska or going to Penn State and completing the James Franklin trade where they go on and hire him. And that we're in a world where I was thinking about that not only maybe 3 hours ago. I don't think it's the most insane thing of all time either.
No, it's entirely within the realm of possibility. Well, like 100%. So I can't wait to see how it shakes out. It's going to be just a hoot and a half to see. It's unfortunate that we are part of this hoot and a half, though. This is our reality. This is why we're talking coaching carousel in early to mid-October, Dante.
We're at a bad spot when that has happened. And I typically hate talking coaching carousel. I tried to steer some conversation away from that when you talk about it, but it's you know,
it's
and
inevitable now. Like, yeah.
But even in today's world, and this is a grander college football issue of these schools have to give up the 3, 4, or not even 3, the 5 to 7 year contracts at a Michigan State, at a program, or pretty much any program to lure a coach away from the situation that they're at.
Right.
And at the same time, we're at a pace right now with the transfer portal and NIL and recruiting to where things can go bad very, very quickly. And these schools just keep stacking up these tremendous, huge buyouts to these coaches that, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the next 10 years go, because at some point, one of the schools, someone's going to have to make a decision to say, let's go with the 3-year contract. Let's do something else. But
sure,
it's
right.
It's just the state of the business, and the money's not stopping.
Isn't this great? Well, I hope everyone's in a chipper mood now for the rest of your Monday or your Tuesday, whatever day you're listening to this. Dante, can't thank you enough, my man. Guys, if you want more of Dante, he's doing fantastic things over at the You Are the Program podcast. I'm actually going to go listen to your guys' episode right after this because, my God, what a day it's been. I finally have free time now. And who wouldn't want to spend it listening to more Michigan State football talk? Which, hey, if you're one of those people, guys, we're going to be doing this more this week because right here, Locked on Spartans, we do this 5 days a week. Gang, all the viewers, all the listeners, you included, Dante. Love you all. Go green.